Hello there, welcome to a little bit of Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. I recorded this a little while ago actually. I've had the preview build, or the review build for a bit, so anything you see of course subject to change. We're going to have a look at Chapter 4, which is quite early in the game.
Jumping in 3, 2, 1. Multiple contacts on Dratus, sir. Records show there hasn't been a Tauran presence out here since the war first broke. We can safely assume any Dratus contacts out there are hostile. Blast us away home, Commander.
Alright, yeah, so Chapter 4, fairly early on. I kind of didn't want to, obviously you get more control over larger forces and more different ships later on, but I didn't want to, since game's just only kind of coming out now, I didn't really want to get far too deep into late game stuff.
Yes, sir.
What we're going to see here is basically this mission twice through. First, me ballsing it up, and then the second time being more successful, but almost managing to balls it up. I will say, I think I'm supposed to have 3 Manticore ships for this mission, Manticore corvettes. But this is my fault. I lost one in the previous mission, so I've only got 2, which means that's what I've got to work with. So we've got a shipyard which does have, as we'll see later, has some fighters in it. I do not. That's one of the mistakes I make this time around. I do not get those fighters out anywhere near quickly enough, and fighters are pretty much king in this game. If you've got a bunch of fighters, 2 or 3 groups of fighters can tear through quite substantial targets. They highly recommend, if you're playing this game later on today, on this week, fighters all the way. Definitely fighters all the way. So if you're not familiar with how this game plays out, it's kind of turn-based, but you plan out the turn and then everything moves in simultaneous real time. So the arc and depth of the ship that I'm doing there, that'll happen during my turn, but also the Cylons are going to be coming towards me as well, and they're fighters. I should know, I recorded this a while ago. I know better now. Those little blips are fighters. I should have known that much earlier and reacted to that accordingly. I didn't, and now that means those Manticores are going to be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, they're not completely screwed, but they're in a bit of trouble. And now I've suddenly realised, perhaps I should better use some fighters of my own. So those will come out during my next turn. I guess I've spoiled the outcome a little bit by saying this first mission isn't successful, whereas the next one is. But yeah, they don't quite make it in time. They do, but it's not quite enough to completely swing the battle for me. So I'm putting these guys. I'm boosting the thrusters to give them extra oomph, a bit of extra acceleration. I guess I'm trying to accelerate beyond those fighters and get in at the craft behind them, which will probably be revealed in this turn.
Commander, multiple new Dratus contacts.
It appears someone really doesn't want us leaving Helios Alpha.
So now this is my big problem. We've got 2 more ships coming in right next to my shipyard. Now I've got a dilemma because I can leave the fighters back to try and deal with those, but that is going to leave my Manticores pretty vulnerable. So I decide to try and send my fighters after the enemy fighters to mop them up, and then come back and hopefully, I'm hoping that the shipyard can hold out against whatever is coming here. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, well, this is you see the control method for commanding the fighters there. I think I'm surprised actually that this target hasn't been uncovered yet, but it definitely will be this turn. And then I think we'll see a few of the weapon options.
Yes, Commander.
That I have at my disposal here with these crafts. Yeah, there we go. Oh, this is okay. This is good. This is that was the posture screen. That's pretty important. It's very important actually. You can change the so-called posture of all of your ships.
All hands on
You can
deck.
make them a little bit more defensive, a little bit more attacking. Obviously, there are benefits and negatives for each of those. If you make them more defensive, then you will be dealing a little bit less damage.
Hostile.
If you make them more attacking, then of course you're more vulnerable, which is probably not wise for me to be doing in this spot, which is why I slid it a little bit more towards defense. So we've uncovered a Talon here, or two Talons actually, there's one in the background too. My fighters, meanwhile, that is both of them. It sort of looks like one, but there you go, you can see that there's both. They're still kind of far away, and the fight's moving, is also moving further away, so that's tricky, but anyway.
Missile tubes prepped.
I'm going to be firing off some missiles. Missiles are pretty good, but they do then take a few more turns to reload. So if you unleash a whole lot of missiles, then you've then got to wait until they reload. I'm going all out to try and get this Talon, try and get that down. Move on to the next one, then sweep back to defend my shipyard, which, as you can probably see in the top left, that is taking damage. Now if I lose my shipyard, that's game over. I mentioned that I'm kind of a ship down in this mission. You can afford to lose, well, I say afford, it's not great. You can get away with losing the odd ship here and there. There is a whole campaign mechanic where you spend resources to build more ships, and there's a limited space in each fleet, which is dependent upon basically the commanding officer's level. So as he or she improves, then they can command more ships. You can add more into the group. I mean, you can run it like a surplus, though, is what I'm trying to say. Right now I don't think I can have that many more ships in this fleet, even if I wanted to. But I am down by one. Alright, so my fighters are finally getting on the scene here. Meanwhile, this Manticore's front armor and left armor are not doing too great. Or the shields, perhaps. I'm not sure if that's armor or shields. Probably armor. Anyway, those two actually appear to be crashing into each other, which is that is almost the lucky break that saves this mission for me. The fact that I can now ignore them completely because they've foolishly run into each other. Not necessarily through poor AI. I mean, that I've kind of engineered, I didn't do it on purpose, but I have kind of engineered the situation where that first ship was fleeing, having taken some missile hits. It was fleeing away and turned into the path of the other one, which is still alive, but it's got barely any hull left, and the armor on the rear, I think, is pretty much. So yeah, I'm going to attack posture here because I'm thinking, right, I can just chase this guy down. I'm not in too much trouble. The enemy fighters are pretty far away. I don't know if you noticed, I drifted over the repair function just there. If you take enough damage and it starts hurting your like navigation or engineering or whatever, then you can repair. it kind of obviously takes up your that's your function, that's your action for the turn. But it is useful if you have if you ever get a bit of breathing room, and then you can do a bit of repairing, which can be useful. Now I'm badly neglecting my shipyard. It's it's at like half health now, and obviously I'm trying to get the ships back towards it, but they are pretty far away. And that move action just went all wrong. Luckily, you can continue to adjust it. I don't think I mentioned, but as you've surely seen, space is somewhat 3D. There is definitely a kind of up and down axis as well as left and right, so you can kind of swoop over other craft. You can even, if you're pretty careful about it, create a sort of formation where you have a couple of craft on top of each other, which can be useful particularly for the I think they're frigates, the adamant frigates. You can have a couple on top of each other. They fire broadsides, sort of like naval vessels. So if you have a couple of them stacked up and bring their turrets to bear on something, then that's pretty effective. Unlike my defense of the shipyard, which is not pretty effective at this juncture.
Yes, sir.
There's a couple of Nemesis craft just hanging around. I mean, they're pointing the wrong way at the moment, but that just means they're coming back for another pass. They're perhaps waiting for their missiles to reload or something like that. So I'm leaving one of my fighters to finish off the Talon.
Understood.
And the other one I've sent back. That was left armor that ship didn't have. But there we go. We got through that now. So now everyone can return and bring everything to bear on these two remaining vessels, but because I committed everything to the front line, as it were, we're not in, not at 100%, but we're not in terrible shape. It's just that both are too far away. Obviously, with this kind of armor system, it's a really good idea to keep a close eye on where you have armor left, and if possible, turn so that you're facing enemy ships with basically the side of your ship that still has armor on it. So for this one, for example, I want to try not to expose my left side too much. I mean, I am kind of doing that here. There's not much you can do. I've chosen to come around this side of the shipyard, so and there go a lot more missiles into the Daedalus. Yeah. Never mind Icarus flying too close to the sun. Daedalus is flying too close to the missiles. So it's now a question of whether I can bring the rest of my squadron to bear in time. The fighters got a bit confused on the edge of the shipyard there, unfortunately. And something... Yeah, so I'm now going to try and repair engineering. I mean, it's a it's a bit of a futile effort, frankly, but and then have I noticed yet that I should be having... Yes, there we go. I finally noticed that I should put the shipyard on full defense again. Way too late. Way too late. That could have made the difference if I'd done that earlier. As I say, this is early in the game. Relatively early. This is kind of towards the end of... It's the back end of the sort of tutorial mission sequence where it's still teaching you how to play the game. So I was definitely making some mistakes. There's no doubt about it.
Understood.
Some of these are things that you should not do. Should mention, I suppose, if you're not completely familiar with what this game is doing, it's set during the first Cylon War in the version of Battlestar Galactica, I guess the rebooted version, as in sort of early 2000s. So it uses that version of the universe, but it's all very prequel related stuff. So there aren't. Well, there are some characters with the same surnames as some of the people from the series. They're obviously not exactly any of the exact same people because it's a lot earlier on in the universe's history. And they've invented quite a few ships for this game as well. I mean, because obviously there wasn't really a full enough roster. Purely from the show itself, I guess, to complete a full set. So I guess they've envisaged some of what the earlier craft would be like and stuff like that, which is pretty neat. I don't know the series well enough to quite speak to whether they, I don't know, are fully following the lore and all of that, but to my eye, they seem perfectly fine. They seem good. They're filling various tactical roles that you need in a game like this. So we finished off one nemesis. Our Daedalus shipyard has 7 health left, and this fucker is excuse me, but he is a fucker. This fucker is unfortunately, spoilers, he is going to get in it. You know, if I had the missiles, but I've got to take another turn before the missiles reload. Yeah. Ultimately, I'm just not gonna quite have enough to destroy him in time, which is a real bastard. But that's the way it goes. That's the narrowness of the margins sometimes. Also, I've just discovered that I could have been focusing fire with the turrets on this shipyard, which is it's a good time to learn this. When that's out of range and it's about to be blown up. But, you know, these are all valuable lessons that you learn for... yeah, there it goes. You know, I'm eating away into his hull now, but shipyard's gone. Game... Oh, the mission is lost. But don't worry, we will now rejoin the game. This is a little bit of the tactical map stuff, the shipbuilding that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, you can see I've got a frigate that's being built. It's 3 turns away. Started building another Manticore. It's a couple of turns away. You can rush it if you've got the resources for it, but I didn't. And all of this, you know, jumping around to missions takes up resources as well. So yeah, all of these planetary systems are places you need to protect, because if you they provide you with your resources basically, and if you don't protect them, they get very unhappy and they leave the Confederation basically, and then you're in trouble. So yeah, periodically you have to fend off various Cylon raids that aren't necessarily part of the linear mission structure or anything. They're just Cylons harassing your guys. So here's the mission intro again. Or rather, here will come the mission intro after we've jumped in.
Multiple contacts on Dratus, sir. Records show there hasn't been a Tauran presence out here since the war first broke. We can safely assume any Dratus contacts out there are hostile. Blast us away home, Commander.
So this time, of course, I do have the slight advantage, because in scripted missions like this, now I know, of course, that 2 other ships are going to be popping in a little bit later on. So basically, I take the decision to stick much closer to the shipyard so that I can protect that better. And also to get my fighters out quicker. No, I don't need them out absolutely immediately, but good to get them going.
Understood.
Basically just setting them on the enemy fighters that I know to be enemy fighters immediately, and that's fine. I mean, that's obviously I know they're fighters now because I've played the mission before, but you get an idea of that with the size of the Dreadis blip, so that's fine. They were always going to be fighters. And yeah, so now we just wait for those Nemesis guys to show up, and we can mess them up and not give them 4 or 5 turns free reign against my shipyard. There we go. Just remember to actually put that on defense. Got my manticores defending a little bit because I need to keep them intact, keep them in shape for further confrontations, frankly, because the Talons are still going to be coming in. Yeah, so the Cylon Raiders are going straight for my manticores, which is
Commander, multiple new
makes sense, I suppose. That's what they should be doing.
Someone really doesn't want us leaving Helios Alpha.
But my fighters are in pursuit, and crucially this keeps the battle closer to the shipyard. You know, now when my fighters triumph, if they're needed to mop up the Nemesis, then they can do that. So I'm using the focus fire option there, which as it suggests, directs more focus to the turrets. I can't remember what that's in. There must be a downside to doing that. I can't immediately recall what that is. I'm not sure. Right, the little numbers there, the binary stuff, that is that's one of my ships getting hacked. That doesn't happen immediately, but they have a certain sort of firewall, basically, and as that gets whittled away, you can see at the bottom there, firewall is at 29. I need to deal with that
missile tubes prepped
before they get hacked. If that happens, he gets all in my systems, messing everything up. Yeah, let's get some turrets focusing on the aggressive things that are attacking. That would be smart.
missiles incoming.
So an absolute barrage of missiles coming in there from both Nemesis, but also from me as well. That has no rear armor left now. So with the enemy fighter squadrons, I think destroyed, or largely destroyed, my own fighters are going to go after the other ships, the Talon ships. Hopefully take them down before they can get too close, start doing too much damage.
Yes, sir.
So there, you see, I've got no left armor left whatsoever. The armory's getting damaged, so I'm going to swing round show my right side.
Manticore is taking damage.
Unfortunately, there was a bunch of missiles left over slamming into the left, but nonetheless. So that one's destroyed, which is good. That means the ship that was being hacked is now fine. Well, it's not fine. It's got 38 hull left, but it can hopefully survive. And the other Nemesis is on the run. I don't know why I put him on attack there. That was pretty risky considering he's in a real bad way, but I guess another mistake there. That was probably not the wisest thing to do. So I think that Talon is out of range, but if it comes back in range, Shipyard will actually return fire. So at the moment it's got 250 of its health left. So it's doing fine. However, there are ships bearing down on it. The missiles have not yet reloaded. Next turn they will. So you can see the fighters are chipping through the armour here pretty rapidly. Talons have got quite a lot of hull armour, sadly, for me, but they're working on it. They're getting there.
Understood. Missiles incoming.
So unfortunately the Nemesis got its missiles off, which is bad news. Couldn't run it off before it launched those, sadly. And smart by the AI, it's aiming for the shipyard, you know, they know. It knows it's probably not going to be able to take down all of my ships, but the shipyard is a prime target for it in this mission. So I decided to split my fighters. I want to start trying to weaken the armor on the other Talon. So we are taking damage now because they've got their turrets in range. But as you can probably see, once again, I appear to have got them on the run and turning into one another, which will prove very helpful. I can't rely on that though, so I'm bringing my ships around. Here we go. Yep, and boom. Again, got a little lucky. Kind of engineered it with pressuring them, but got a little lucky. And there we go. That is the mission successful. Thanks for watching. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock is out today, which is the 31st of August. Don't know how much it costs yet, because I don't think the price has been announced. You'll have to look for that yourself on Steam.
Commander, we'll jump on your word.